You glance around and see things that haven't moved in years. Unopened mail, a coat your son left behind the last time he visited, drawers full of things you haven't touched since the 90s. And in that moment, all you can do is sigh. Maybe bend down to pick up another paper off the floor, but you're not really sure what to do next. Because today, we're not going to declutter your whole house. That's not the goal. Instead, I'll walk you through 9 simple, gentle steps that don't overwhelm you. They empower you. You don't need to lift heavy boxes or throw away your memories. All you need is a drawer, a bag, a single decision. And from there, something surprising happens. You start to breathe again. Joyce is 72, a widow who's lived in the same home for over 3 decades. It used to be filled with noise, her grandkids running through the halls, laughter over late-night tea. But lately, that house has gotten quieter and fuller. With stuff. Papers she meant to file, clothes she never wore, birthday cards from 20 years ago. One morning, Joyce broke down in tears. Not because something tragic had happened, but because she couldn't find her favorite spoon. It had disappeared into the chaos. That moment told her something. Her space no longer belonged to her. The clutter had taken over. But here's the beauty. Joyce didn't give up, and neither will you. Because decluttering, when done with care, isn't just about space. It's about peace, about coming home to yourself again. So if you've ever felt like Joyce, a little lost in the place that once felt like your haven, come with me. Let's start small, with one win, one drawer, one breath of fresh air. Ready? Let's begin with step 1. Just one small win. Secret 1. Start with just one small win. Let me tell you something I've learned after helping dozens of seniors navigate clutter. It's not the piles that defeat us. It's the pressure to fix it all at once. The truth is, most people don't start decluttering because they think they need to do the whole room, the whole closet, the whole house. That kind of thinking? It paralyzes us. I once sat down with a lovely woman named Evelyn. She's 74, sharp as a tack, but you'd never know it from the way she talked about her home. "It's embarrassing," she whispered. "There's stuff everywhere and I don't even know where to begin." I asked her gently, "What if you didn't have to begin with everything? What if you just started with one drawer?" She looked at me like I was kidding, but I wasn't. So she picked a drawer in her kitchen, the one filled with rubber bands, old batteries, expired coupons. It took her 7 minutes. She tossed what she didn't need, kept what she did, and wiped the drawer clean. When she was done, I saw something change in her posture. Her shoulders dropped. Her face softened. "I did it," she smiled, "and it wasn't that hard." Here's what's happening beneath the surface. When you complete even a tiny task, your brain releases dopamine, the feel-good chemical. That rush of progress builds momentum. Suddenly, the next drawer doesn't feel impossible. The pile on the nightstand doesn't look as scary. One small win becomes 2, then 3. And just like that, you've created a shift, not in your space, but in your mindset. You don't need to clean your entire home today. You just need to choose something easy. A junk drawer, a shelf, the nightstand next to your bed. Something that takes 5 to 10 minutes max. The goal isn't perfection, it's movement. Forward, gentle, doable. And the best part? That little win stays with you. Every time you open that drawer and see how clean it is, it reminds you, you are capable. You are moving forward. You are in control again. Now that we've got our first win, let's talk about the next secret. A powerful rule that helps you let go of junk without the guilt. The no-brainer toss. Secret 2. The no-brainer. Toss. Let me ask you something. Have you ever picked up an old receipt, a a dried-up pen, or a takeout menu from a restaurant that closed 5 years ago, and then just set it back down, you know it's trash. But somehow, it feels like a decision you don't want to make right now. So it goes back in the drawer. And just like that, the clutter grows roots. I remember a man named George, a retired mechanic, 68 years old. He had the kind of garage you could get lost in. Tools, boxes, wires, odds and ends. He once joked, "If I ever disappear, start your search behind the lawnmower." But when we got serious about decluttering, we found that the hardest part wasn't the big stuff. It was the tiny junk, the no-brainers, that tripped him up. So we came up with a rule. I called it the no-brainer toss. Here's how it works. If you pick something up and your first thought is, "Why do I still have this?" let it go. No second guessing. No, "What if I need it someday?" If it's obviously broken, expired, irrelevant, it doesn't need a debate. It needs a trash bin. That day, George went through a drawer and found 7 dead batteries, 5 restaurant menus from places that had long shut down, and a calculator that hadn't worked since the early 2000s. He laughed, tossed them all, and looked at me with a smile I'll never forget. "That was easy," he said. "Kind of fun, actually." The thing is, when you remove the mental friction from small decisions, you make room for real change. Tossing obvious junk doesn't just clear your home, it clears your mind. It builds confidence. You stop thinking of yourself as someone with too much stuff and start seeing yourself as someone who takes action. And that shift, that quiet, inner pride, is everything. So here's your next tiny mission. Look around right now. Find one thing that is clearly trash. Don't justify it. Don't overthink it. Just toss it. Feel the release. You'll be amazed how powerful it feels to let go of what you never needed in the first place. Now, what about the things that aren't so obvious? The stuff that clutters your home because you're afraid you'll need it again, or you're not sure where to start? That's where our next step comes in. A simple method called the 10-minute declutter sprint. Let's talk about how to use time, not pressure, to create real momentum. Secret 3. The 10-minute declutter sprint. You know, sometimes the hardest part of decluttering isn't the decision-making. It's just getting started. I once had a lovely client named Evelyn. She was 72, a retired nurse, always warm and thoughtful. But her living room was slowly being swallowed by paper piles, magazines, and little things that had nowhere to go. "I keep meaning to do it," she said, "but I get so overwhelmed that I don't even start." And honestly, who hasn't felt that way? That's when I introduced her to something I call the 10-minute declutter sprint. It's not about cleaning the whole room. It's not about making it perfect. It's simply about setting a timer for 10 minutes, picking a small area, a drawer, a shelf, a corner of the kitchen table, and doing as much as you can, as fast as you can, without stopping to overthink. Evelyn looked skeptical. 10 minutes? That's it? I smiled and said, "Just trust the timer." She chose her nightstand. She found an old greeting card with no signature, a melted lip balm, expired cough drops, and 5 pens that no longer worked. All gone. When the timer buzzed, she looked up and said, "I feel like I can breathe again." Here's why this works. When you tell your brain, "We're only doing this for 10 minutes," it doesn't panic. It doesn't resist. It leans in. There's no time to overanalyze. You move, you sort, you toss, and you build momentum. That momentum is magic, because often 10 minutes turns into 15, sometimes even more. But even if it doesn't, you've still made progress. And progress, not perfection, is what frees us from the weight of clutter. So right now, think of one small spot in your home, a drawer, A side table, the corner where unopened mail collects. Set a timer. Move fast. Let the dust settle later. Just get something out of your way and watch what happens inside you. Because once you start moving, you'll start believing. And when you believe you can reclaim your space, everything begins to change. In fact, next we're going to talk about the moments when you pick something up and freeze. You don't know whether to keep it, toss it, or feel guilty about it. Don't worry. There's a trick for that too. It's called the 3-second rule for decision making. Let's talk about how to quiet the clutter in your mind, as well as your home. Secret 4, the 3-second gut check. Let me tell you about Ronald. He's 70, a retired school teacher with a heart as big as his book collection. But the trouble was, every shelf, drawer, and cabinet in his house told a story. And when it came time to part with something, even a cracked mug, Ronald would hold it, stare at it, and say, "But it was a gift. Maybe I'll use it someday." Sound familiar? This is the emotional weight that clutter carries. It's not just about the item. It's about the memories, the guilt, the what ifs. That's why I shared a little rule with Ronald that changed everything. The 3-second gut check. Here's how it works. Pick something up, and in the first 3 seconds, ask yourself, do I love it, use it, or need it? If you hesitate, if your mind starts explaining or bargaining, then chances are it's time to let it go. You see, your gut always knows. It's your brain that gets in the way, trying to protect you from regret, from loss, from discomfort. But the truth is, if an object isn't bringing peace or purpose into your life, it's just taking up space and energy. Ronald started small. An old sweater he hadn't worn in over a decade. He picked it up, paused, and said, "If I have to think this hard about it, I probably don't need it." Into the donation box it went, and with every quick, confident decision, his home and his heart felt just a little bit lighter. The deeper lesson here isn't just about speed. It's about learning to trust yourself again. You don't need a spreadsheet. You don't need to justify every decision. You've lived a life full of wisdom, and now you get to use it, not just in your relationships or your values, but in the space you wake up to each morning. So next time you're stuck holding something, remember, 3 seconds. Listen to that little whisper inside. If it doesn't say yes, it's probably a gentle no. And once you've let go of what you don't need, we'll talk about how to avoid one of the biggest traps people fall into, sorting but never finishing. That's where the one-touch rule comes in. Let's go there next. Secret 5, the one-touch sorting system. Alice, a lovely 68-year-old grandmother, once told me, "I've been trying to declutter for years, but somehow nothing ever really leaves the house." And she wasn't alone. Her guest room had become a maze of maybe piles, things she might keep, might donate, might get to someday. But the truth is, maybe is where clutter goes to hide. That's when I introduced her to a little lifesaver I call the one-touch sorting system. It's simple and powerful, and most importantly, it works. Here's how it goes. Every time you touch an item, you decide, right then and there, what its future is. You don't set it down again. You don't make a deal with it later pile. Just 3 options: keep, donate, trash. Alice was skeptical at first, but she gave it a try. She grabbed 3 boxes, labeled them clearly, and walked into her closet. The first item, a pair of shoes she hadn't worn since her granddaughter's high school graduation. One touch. A moment of reflection. Into the donation box. Then came a cracked jewelry box, full of tangled chains she hadn't looked at in years. Trash. No hesitation. The magic of this system isn't just in sorting fast. It's in breaking the cycle of indecision. When we pick something up multiple times, we lose clarity. We second guess. We procrastinate. And clutter, once again, wins. But when you commit to touching each item only once, you move forward. You make real progress. You create space, not just on your shelves, but in your mind. The deeper lesson here is about honoring your time and energy. You've earned the right to spend your days in peace, not drowning in decisions about objects that no longer serve you. And when you stop rehandling the same clutter, you start reclaiming control. So if you're surrounded by half-sorted piles, try the one-touch system. Touch it once, make a decision, move on. And once you've got that momentum going, we'll move into the heart of the matter, the sentimental stuff, the photos, the letters, the things that whisper memories. That's coming next. And it's where decluttering gets emotional, but also incredibly freeing. Secret 6. Declutter memories. Keep meaning. George, a 72-year-old retired firefighter, once showed me a shoebox full of birthday cards, every single one he'd ever received from his grandkids. "I can't throw them out," he said. "These are my memories." I looked him in the eyes and said something I've learned to be deeply true. "George, the love is not in the paper. It's in your heart." Sentimental clutter is the hardest to face. It's not just stuff. It's pieces of people we love, moments we've lived, and feelings we're scared to forget. That's why we hold on to souvenirs from trips, letters from loved ones, baby shoes, or wedding invitations yellowed with time. But here's the gentle truth. When everything is special, nothing truly stands out. What if you could keep the meaning without keeping every object? That's what George did. Together, we laid all those birthday cards out on the table. He smiled, laughed, teared up. Then he took photos of his favorites, made a little digital album he could revisit any time. And instead of saving the whole box, he chose one card, the one with his granddaughter's handprint in bright red paint, and framed it for his desk. Decluttering memories isn't about erasing the past. It's about choosing what matters most and letting go of what weighs you down. Here's a gentle practice you can try. Take one sentimental item today, something you've been unsure about. Hold it. Breathe. Ask yourself, does the memory live here, or is it already in me? If it's already in you, maybe it's time to let it go with gratitude. And when you do, you make space, not just on a shelf, but for new memories, new joy, and more peace in the life you're living now. Coming up next, we'll talk about how to stop clutter from creeping back in. Even after all your hard work, you've made space. Let's protect it. It's time for the one-in, one-out habit. Secret 7. The one-in, one-out habit. Let me tell you about Linda. She's 67, recently retired, and finally got her kitchen just the way she wanted. Clean, open, peaceful. But a few months later, she called me, frustrated. "I don't know what happened," she said. "It's like the clutter just crept back in." And that's exactly how it happens. You see, we often forget that decluttering isn't a one-time event. It's a rhythm, a habit. And one of the simplest yet most powerful habits is this: one in, one out. It's beautifully simple. When you bring something new into your home, a mug, a pair of shoes, a book, you let go of one item in the same category. That way, your space never gets more crowded than it was. When Linda heard that, she smiled. "So, if I buy a new blouse, I donate an old one?" Exactly. And she did. Every time something new came in, she made space for it, not by shoving it into a drawer, but by releasing something she no longer needed. Before long, Her home felt lighter again, not because she stopped living, but because she started living more intentionally. This habit isn't about restriction, it's about respect for your space, your energy, and the life you've worked so hard to build. And coming up, we'll talk about how just 5 quiet minutes before bed can keep your home from ever falling back into chaos. A simple daily ritual that brings peace without pressure. Secret 8. The Daily 5-Minute Reset. Robert, a 70-year-old widower I know, once told me something that stuck with me. Every morning, he said, I'd wake up and spend 10 minutes looking for my glasses, my keys, sometimes even the remote. I wasn't starting the day. I was chasing it. It wasn't that his home was dirty. It was just scattered. A little pile here, a few forgotten things there, and every day, that clutter chipped away at his peace. Then we talked about something simple, the daily 5-minute reset. Before bed, just 5 quiet minutes to gently put things back where they belong. No scrubbing, no perfection, just a soft pause to tidy up the day. Robert gave it a try. He set a timer, and every night, he'd put his glasses on the nightstand, stack the mail, straighten up the coffee table. After a week, something shifted. He wasn't hunting for things anymore. He woke up to clear counters and a calm mind. It became a small ritual, like brushing his teeth. Only this one brushed away the noise of the day, and it reminded him, every night, that he was still in charge of his space and his peace. That's the power of 5 gentle minutes. And next, we'll explore the final, most powerful shift, one that isn't about what's in your home, but what's in your heart. The mindset that truly sets you free. Secret 9. Shift the mindset, not just the stuff. Elena was 72 when she stood in the middle of her living room, surrounded by things she hadn't touched in years. Boxes of old books, piles of clothes, souvenirs from trips long past. She looked around and said quietly, "Why does it feel heavier in here than it used to?" That's when it clicked. Clutter isn't just about what you can see, it's about what it makes you feel. The guilt of letting go, the fear of forgetting, the pressure to hold on to things, just in case. But here's the truth I gently shared with her. We don't declutter just to make space in our homes. We do it to make space in our lives. The real weight isn't in the drawer full of takeout menus or the sweater you haven't worn in 10 years. It's in the way those things silently tell us who we used to be or what we should still be doing. So Elena asked herself different questions. Am I keeping this out of guilt or joy? Does this item serve me now or just take up space? Slowly, she started releasing things, not to forget the past, but to honor it and move forward. She began to see her home not as a museum of memories, but as a space for living, breathing, creating new ones. That shift, not in her hands, but in her heart, was the most powerful decluttering tool of all. Now, as we gently place down the final piece of clutter and take a deep breath together, let's pause for a moment. Remember how we began this journey with just one small drawer? Look how far you've come, not just in clearing your space, but in lightening your mind. Each small step wasn't just about tidying up things. It was about making more room for peace, memories, and possibilities. Here's a simple question to carry with you. What's the very next small space you could clear? Maybe it's a bedside table, the top of the dresser, or even just one drawer. After this video, spend just 5 minutes. You'll be surprised how much better it feels when the room around us reflects calm inside. If this journey touched your heart, please share one small win or thought in the comments below. And if you feel comfortable, pass this video along to someone who might need a gentle nudge too. Before we say goodbye, I want to leave you with a quiet image. A home filled with space for your next cup of tea, a place by the window without piles, a moment when your hands are free of things. and your heart is light. You've earned that moment. You've done the work. You've made room, not just in your home, but in your life. Thank you for trusting me with your time tonight. I'm so proud of you. Until next time, may your days be lighter, your heart be warmer, and your next chapter brighter.